My name is Cassidy Monroe. I'm 31 years old. And 2 months ago, my dad looked me dead in the eye and told me I'd be nothing to this family, completely erased, if I dared to open a cedar box with my own name carved into the lid. That box had been sitting in my parents' attic for 14 whole years, ever since the day my grandma passed away. Inside it was something my mom and dad were willing to lose their only daughter to keep buried. And when I finally cracked it open right in front of 60-plus guests at their 40th wedding anniversary cookout, not a single person in that yard ever looked at my father the same way again. Before we get into all of this, if my story hits you in the chest the way I think it might, I'd really appreciate a like and a subscribe, but only if it genuinely moves you. Don't do it out of pity. Also, drop your city and your local time in the comments. I love seeing where people are watching from. Now let me take you back to a Sunday afternoon in mid-November, the day I crawled up into that attic and my whole world flipped upside down. The drive from Portland takes about 2.5 hours when traffic cooperates. That Sunday, it absolutely does not. I hit a backup on I-5 just past Grants Pass, a fender bender with a tractor-trailer blocking 2 lanes, and I burned 45 minutes crawling past flares and a guy in a reflective vest waving everybody through like he's got all the time in the world. So I'm already running late when I finally pull into my parents' gravel driveway in Cedar Falls, Oregon. Population around 5,200, which sounds like enough people until you've lived there and realized everybody knows your business before you know it yourself. Mom had asked me to come help clear out the attic. Their 40th anniversary party was the following Saturday. Dad wanted to set up picnic tables in the backyard, which meant moving stuff out of the shed, which meant making room in the attic first. The logic runs in circles, but that's my father. Richard Monroe. Everything operates on Richard Monroe's timeline, Richard Monroe's system, Richard Monroe's say-so. Always has. I pull up and the house is empty. Dad's out picking up rented folding chairs. Mom's at the church helping with the anniversary cake order. I grab a flashlight from the junk drawer, pull down the attic ladder myself and start climbing. The attic smells exactly the way it always has. Old wood, a little dusty, and underneath all of it something faintly sweet, like dried pipe tobacco. My grandma Dorothy used to smoke up here when Grandpa wouldn't let her do it in the main rooms. Even now, years after she's been gone, that smell is her. I swear she never fully left. I start moving things. Christmas decorations. Old tax folders. A busted dehumidifier. My clarinet case from 6th grade. And then, pushed way back behind a stack of plastic bins marked Chelsea High School, I see it. A cedar box, sealed with red wax, pressed with what looks like a signet ring stamp. And on the lid, burned right into the wood in carved lettering, is my name. Cassidy. All caps. Slightly uneven, like the person who made it had shaky hands but a very steady heart. I know whose hands made those letters. Seeing them stops my breath cold. My grandma Dorothy carved my name on this box. And I have never, not one single time in my 31 years, laid eyes on it before. I carry it downstairs. It's heavier than it looks. Something solid shifts inside when I tilt it. I set it on the kitchen table and stand there staring at it. That's when I hear Dad's truck crunch into the driveway. Green door bangs open. He walks in carrying 2 folding chairs under one arm, already talking. "Sheila, did you call the—" He stops. He sees me. He sees the box. The chairs hit the linoleum floor with a clatter. I have watched my father stare down contractors, argue with county inspectors, and outlast a neighbor in a fence dispute for 3 years straight. Not once in my life have I seen the color drain from his face the way it does right now. "Where did you find that?" Not a question. A demand. "Attic." Behind Chelsea's stuff. He crosses the kitchen in 4 steps and grabs the box right out of my hands. His other hand clamps around my wrist. Not gentle, the kind of grip that leaves a mark. "You open that, you're done in this family." Completely done. His voice is controlled, shaking at the very edges. "It has my name on it." "It's nothing. Your grandmother wasn't thinking straight at the end." put it back. The screen door opens. Mom walks in with a grocery bag. She looks at the box. She looks at Dad's hand on my wrist. She looks at me. She doesn't say a single word. She turns and quietly sets the grocery bag on the counter, her back to both of us. That silence tells me everything. She isn't surprised. She already knew this box existed. She has always known. I pull my wrist free. If it's nothing, it shouldn't matter whether I open it. Dad slams the bedroom door so hard the cross in the hallway swings on its nail. Mom sinks into a kitchen chair with both palms over her face. Not crying yet, just bracing like she's been waiting for this exact moment for 14 years and still isn't ready for it. I sit down. Crack the wax seal. Flip the brass latch. Inside, a manila envelope, thick, slightly yellowed. Beneath it, a smaller white envelope typed with my full name. Cassidy and Monroe. I open the manila one first. 3 sets of stapled documents slide out. Warranty deed. State of Oregon. County of Marion. Grantor Dorothy B. Sutton. Grantee Cassidy and Monroe. Property address 718 Birch Street, Cedar Falls, Oregon. Date of transfer August 22, 2001. I was 6 years old. Second deed 52 acres of farmland off County Road 41. Same date. Same grantor. Granemy. Third, a lake house on Detroit Lake. Transferred to me. August 22, 2001. My hands are shaking. I open the white envelope. 5 pages of lined notebook paper, front and back, in my grandmother's handwriting. I recognize it immediately, the way the letters lean left, the way she always pressed a little too hard. First line. Cassie, if you're reading this, they didn't give it to you willingly. I'm so sorry, baby girl. I read that sentence 3 times before I can keep going. I set the letter down. Mom, how long have you known about this? She lowers her hands. Mascara already streaking. Since the day she died. Grandma Dorothy laid everything out plainly. In 2001, she transferred all 3 properties into my name specifically because she didn't trust my father with them. The deeds were properly filed with the county recorder. The originals went into this cedar box. Copies and a sworn notarized affidavit were left with her attorney, a man named Bernard Keats in Salem. Then the part that made my stomach drop straight through the floor. Grandma Dorothy had discovered in her final year that my father had taken out loans against 2 of the 3 properties. Signed by Richard Monroe as property manager and authorized agent. Even though the deeds never granted him that authority. He did it through a connection at a local bank. He did it while I was a teenager who didn't even know I owned anything. Grandma Dorothy's instructions to Keats were specific. If I didn't contact the attorney before my 32nd birthday, Keats was authorized to initiate litigation automatically. No exceptions. No family negotiations first. I set the letter down. My 32nd birthday is 4 months away. I look at Mom. Dad told me Grandma was confused at the end. She shakes her head slowly. Your father said it would destroy the family. Which part? I ask. The stealing? Or me finding out? She doesn't answer. She just stares at the tablecloth like it might have instructions for surviving this moment. The bottom of the last page, boxed off with a ruler line, Grandma Dorothy had written Keats' phone number. I copy it into my phone. Here's what you need to understand about my grandmother. Dorothy Sutton was a retired civil engineer who always smelled like coffee and motor oil and had calluses on her hands from actual work. She taught me to change a tire when I was 9. To read a topographical map when I was 11. To identify property pins on a land survey when I was 13, which I thought was the most boring thing on earth at the time, and turned out to be the most important. Every summer from when I was about 5 until I was 15, she'd pick me up in her old green Chevy pickup and we'd drive out to the lake house at Detroit Lake. She'd fish. I'd swim and read on the dock. She'd make fried bologna sandwiches on a camp stove. I know that sounds awful. I promise it was incredible. And tell me stories about my grandpa who died before I was born. When I was around 14, she started saying things I didn't fully catch. Cassie, there's gonna come a day when you have something of your own. When that day comes, don't let a single soul tell you it doesn't belong to you. I thought she was just being philosophical the way grandmas get. She wasn't being philosophical. She was setting up a warning. Grandma Dorothy passed away from a stroke in January of 2010. I was 16. My father told me I couldn't go to the funeral because the roads were icy and it was too far. I begged. Dad said no. Mom said nothing. I went to the cemetery 3 weeks later alone with a grocery store bouquet, standing in light sleet, reading a headstone I should have been there to watch go into the ground. I understand now exactly why Dad kept me away. Bernard Keats was at that funeral. Keats knew everything. If I'd been there and they'd met, the whole thing would have unraveled 14 years earlier. The bedroom door opens. Dad walks back in, shoulders squared, jaw set. Pulls out a chair. Folds his hands. Calm now. Rehearsed. You don't understand what you're looking at. Those properties had tax issues. I kept them from going under. You should be grateful. By taking loans in my name without telling me. You were 6. What were you gonna do, manage a farmstead from first grade? I was 17, 21, 25. I could have managed them at any point in the last 15 years. He leans forward. I fed you. I paid for your car. Co-signed your first lease. I put your sister through college. And this is how you act over some old papers. That's when the back door opens. My sister Chelsea walks in carrying a case of soda. She's 27, 4 years younger than me, here to help set up for next weekend's party. She takes one look at the 3 of us frozen around the kitchen table and goes completely still. What's going on? Nothing, Dad says. Cassidy found some old documents. But Chelsea looks at the deeds. She looks at the box. She looks at Dad's face. And her expression doesn't do what an innocent person's face does. There's no confusion. No genuine surprise. What I see in my sister's eyes is recognition, fast and immediate, followed by dread. She already knew. I watch her set the soda down on the counter very carefully. She won't look directly at me. Cass. Her voice is low and careful. Don't blow this up right before their anniversary. How long, Chelsea? She exhales. Runs a hand through her hair. About a year. I overheard them arguing about it at Christmas. I didn't know the full story, just that a box existed with your name on it and Dad said it was complicated. She shrugs, miserable. I figured Dad had it handled. The air leaves my lungs. I look at my sister, who got her tuition paid, her car insurance covered until 25, the down payment on her condo the year before last. I think about my studio apartment in Portland. My second-hand Civic with 200,000 miles on it. The credit card debt I've been chipping away at since I was 23. Chelsea. Keep my voice level. The down payment on your condo. $48,000. Where did that come from? Complete silence. Absolute airless silence. Mom closes her eyes. Dad's knuckles go white. Chelsea opens her mouth and nothing comes out. And that silence is my answer. Dad pushes back from the table. You walk out that door with those papers, you don't come back. I mean it. I gather the deeds. I fold Grandma's letter. I slide everything into the manila envelope and put it carefully in my bag, the way you handle something that was stolen from you and just got handed back. Mom follows me to the porch. Catches my sleeve with both hands. Cassie, please. The party is next Saturday. Can we just get through next weekend and then talk about all of this after? I stop on the bottom step. Turn around. Mom, you hid this from me for 14 years. The party is genuinely the last thing on my mind right now. I drive back to Portland with every window cracked even though it's 45 degrees out. My fingers are frozen on the wheel, but I need the cold air. I need to be awake and completely present in my own body. My hands are still shaking. But for the first time in a very long time, my head is perfectly clear. Monday morning, I'm in the parking lot of the real estate management company where I work. I'm a property coordinator, not a lawyer, but I've spent enough years around title documents and deed filings to know what legitimate ownership paperwork looks like. What I'm holding in that envelope is airtight. I dial the number from Grandma's letter. 2 rings. Keats and Associates, this is Bernard. Old voice. Precise. Like someone who still uses a day planner and means it. Mr. Keats, my name is Cassidy Monroe. Dorothy Sutton was my. Cassidy. He says it the way you say a word you've been rehearsing. I've been waiting on this call for 14 years. Where are you? Bernard Keats is 77. Silver hair, reading glasses on a beaded chain, an office that smells like old legal pads and peppermints. He shakes my hand with both of his and holds on a beat too long, like he's making sure I'm real. He sent me 2 letters, one at 21, one at 25. Both came back returned to sender. He confirmed with the post office that my forwarding address had been changed. Changed by my father. Your grandmother's instructions were very clear, Keats says. You had to be the one to come to me. She wanted it to be your choice, not mine. He opens a filing cabinet and pulls out a 3-inch folder. Copies of every deed. The notarized affidavit. The full timeline of every mortgage Richard Monroe filed under fraudulent authority. Your grandmother was not confused, Keats says. Dorothy Sutton was the most deliberate client I worked with in 40 years. Every decision she made around those properties was intentional and documented. He pauses. Do you want me to file now or give your family a chance to make this right first? I tell him I need a week. By Wednesday, my phone is buzzing every 20 minutes. Dad has been working the phones hard. His version of events doesn't include sealed cedar boxes or forged loan signatures. Aunt Renee calls first. Your father says you're threatening to take everything over some old papers, after all he's done for you. Uncle Dennis texts. Family is the only thing that matters. Don't be the one to set fire to it. My cousin Brock, who I haven't talked to since Easter, messages. Heard you're going after your own parents over some inheritance drama. Real classy. Chelsea posts in the family group chat, 62 members, something careful and vague about hoping cooler heads prevail. No mention of the fact that she knew. Just enough to frame me as the impulsive one. I screenshot everything. I respond to none of it. Then Friday night around 9, my phone buzzes with an unfamiliar area code. I almost let it go to voicemail. Cassidy. The voice is warm and no nonsense. It's your Aunt Lorraine, your mama's sister out in Phoenix. I don't think we've talked since your grandma's memorial. Lorraine moved to Arizona about 10 years ago. She's always been slightly outside the family inner circle. Maybe that's exactly why she's the only one calling me without an agenda already baked in. She doesn't lead with advice. She doesn't open with an accusation. She says 6 words nobody else has said to me all week. Cassidy, tell me your side of it. I sit down on my apartment floor back against the kitchen cabinet, and for the first time since I found that box, I actually talk. Everything, the box, the deeds, the letter, Keats, the forwarded mail. All of it. Lorraine listens without interrupting once. When I stop, she says, before Dorothy died, about 6 weeks before the stroke, she called me. She said, Lorraine, if anything happens to me, make sure Cassie gets what's hers. Richard is in over his head, and he'll use her to keep himself afloat. I didn't know what she meant. I thought maybe she was talking about her old fishing gear. Your daddy told the whole family there was nothing left. Just debts and an old truck. I believed him. She pauses. I should have pushed harder. I'm sorry, Cassidy. You're the only person who even asked for my side, I tell her. That means more than you know. Quiet on the line. Then she says, the anniversary party. Are you going? Dad told me not to come back. That's not what I asked. I look at the ceiling. Lorraine's voice goes steady. If you go and you need somebody standing next to you, I'll fly in. I'll be right there. You do that? Honey, your grandmother called me for a reason. I should have showed up 14 years ago. I'm not gonna miss it twice. Monday on my lunch break, I drive to the Marion County Register of Deeds. Public records are public. One very practical thing that 4 years in property management has drilled into me. I sit at a terminal in a basement that smells like old carpet and pull up the records one by one. 718 Birch Street, Cedar Falls. Deed in my name. Confirmed. Mortgage lien filed 2015. $210,000. Borrower, Richard D. Monroe, listed as property manager and authorized agent. There is no court order granting him that authority. I checked 3 times. 52 acres off County Road 41. Deed in my name. Confirmed. Mortgage lien filed 2017. $112,000. Same forged authority. Same non-existent paperwork. Lake house on Detroit Lake. Deed in my name confirmed. No mortgage. Active rental agreement, $1,400 a month going to an account in Richard D. Monroe's name. I sit in my car in the parking lot with the engine off and do the math. $210,000 plus $112,000 in fraudulent loans. $1,400 a month for 9 years in rental income collected off my property. That's roughly $150,000 in rent alone. Total taken, approximately $472,000. Then I think about Chelsea's condo. $48,000 down payment. Keith's timeline shows a $48,000 withdrawal from the rental income account in March 2023. Chelsea closed on her condo in April 2023. My sister bought her home with rent money collected off my lake house. I sit in that parking lot for a long time. A delivery driver rolls a cart right past my window without glancing over. A pigeon lands on my hood. Looks at me. Flies away. I'm not angry anymore. I moved past angry somewhere around mile marker 40 on the drive home from Cedar Falls. What I feel now is cold, clean, and completely certain. Like a window that's been fogged up your whole life and somebody finally wiped it clear. I know exactly what I'm going to do. Okay, I need to pause here. Because I know some of you are thinking, why didn't you just file immediately? And honestly, part of me kept looking for the angle where this was a misunderstanding. 14 years of Dad knows best doesn't just evaporate in one afternoon. Condo down payment broke it open for me. That was my money from my property that went directly to benefit my sister. And nobody told me. Nobody even considered telling me. What would you have done? Drop it in the comments. I genuinely want to know. All right. Here's where things move fast. Tuesday night, Dad calls. I let it ring 4 times. His voice is corporate. Rehearsed. I talked to a lawyer, Cassidy. You don't have a case. Those properties were drowning in back taxes. I kept them from going to the state. He's wrong and he knows it. Keats confirmed that Grandma paid off every lien before the transfers. Those properties were clean. There was 0 risk of loss. That's not accurate, Dad. You want to throw your family away over what some old woman wrote on a piece of paper? Is that all? One more thing. His voice drops. You don't come to the party Saturday and act normal. I'm done with you. I'll change the locks. I hang up. 20 minutes later, Chelsea calls. Softer tone, same message. Do you really want to be the person who sues her own parents? I don't answer. At 11:30, a text from Mom. Please just come. We can talk after. I promise. I stare at the word after. I've heard it my whole life. After the holidays. After things calm down. After the party. After is where honest conversations go to die in the Monroe family. After is where they've been sending the truth for 14 years. I open my contacts and scroll to Bernard Keats. Mr. Keats, I'd like to invite you to a party. A pause. Then, I wondered when you'd say that. Just tell me where and when. The rest of the week moves like a countdown. Wednesday, I go back to Keats' office. Certified copies of everything. Originals in his safe. I leave with a folder and one simple instruction. Present the facts. Stay calm. Let the documents talk. Thursday, Lorraine books her flight. She's coming in Friday evening, renting a car, staying at a motel outside Cedar Falls so nobody spots her early. Friday evening, I stand in front of my closet for half an hour. I don't want to look angry. Don't want to look like I'm making a statement. I pick a deep burgundy top, dark jeans, clean white sneakers. Simple and composed. Like someone who has every right to be exactly where she's going. Manila folder goes in my bag. It's heavier than a folder should feel. Saturday morning, Keats texts, departing Salem at 9:30. See you there. 77 years old in a charcoal suit with a leather briefcase. He'll park down the street and walk in. Just another guest as far as anyone can tell. Party is set for noon. White string lights threaded through the oak trees. 3 long picnic tables with checkered cloths. A hand-painted banner on the garden gate. 40 years, Richard and Sheila, still going strong. Mom's handwriting. She put real love into that sign. About 60 guests, family from both sides, neighbors, church friends, some of Dad's old business contacts. And I'd checked the guest list Mom posted in the family chat. Gary Whitfield, the branch manager at Cedar Falls Federal Savings, the man who approved my father's fraudulent loans, was confirmed as a guest. He's coming to celebrate a marriage funded in part by money taken from me. Dad meets me at the garden gate, arm around my shoulder, squeezing. To everyone across the yard, it looks like a warm father-daughter greeting. His fingers dig into my collarbone. Not a word, he murmurs. Not today. I smile. Nod. Walk into the yard. Paper plates with sweet tea rings on them. Foil-covered casserole dishes. 2 sheet cakes in blue frosting. Luke Bryan playing from a Bluetooth speaker on the porch railing. Neighbors shake my hand. Dad's cousin Patty tells me I look tired. Mom moves through the crowd in a floral dress, laughing a beat too loud, eyes puffy under her makeup. She's been crying all week. Chelsea is at the dessert table with her boyfriend Derek, who looks completely at ease, totally clueless about what's coming. Chelsea spots me and gives me a tight, guilty nod. She doesn't come over. Then I see Bernard Keats. Near the back corner of the yard. Charcoal suit. Paper plate of potato salad he isn't touching. Leather briefcase at his feet. He looks like somebody's retired accountant. Nobody pays him any attention. Catches my eye. Single nod. Ready when you are. Aunt Lorraine comes through the side gate about 10 minutes later, walks straight to me, hugs me hard enough that I feel my spine pop. I'm right here, she says into my ear. You're not doing this alone. 12:58, Dad taps his glass with a butter knife. The yard quiets. He stands with his shoulders back, the afternoon sun hitting him just right. For one moment, he genuinely looks like the man this whole town believes he is. Steady. Dependable. The guy who never misses a Sunday service and always shows up when somebody needs help. 40 years, he begins. Sheila and I started with nothing. A 1-bedroom apartment and credit cards already tapped out. Warm laughter. Every decision I made was for my family. Every sacrifice, every hard year. I'm not a perfect man. More laughter. But I have always put this family first. Real applause. From people who've known him 3 decades. He turns to Mom. Sheila, you are the reason any of it held together. She dabs her eyes. More applause. Then he finds me in the crowd, direct eye contact, and delivers the line I know is a warning dressed up as warmth. And Cassidy, we don't always see eye to eye, but you are my daughter and I love you. Crowd makes that soft collective ah sound. Cousin Patty puts her hand over her heart. I hear sacrifice and think of $472,000. I hear put this family first and think of a cedar box sealed in wax hidden behind my sister's high school trophies for 14 years. The applause fades. Dad picks up his fork. I stand up. Can I say something too, Dad? Every head in that backyard turns. Dad's fork stops moving. He can't say no, not in front of 60 people who just watched him say he loves me. Of course, sweetheart. Generous. Magnanimous. Go ahead. I stand where everyone can see me. Lorraine is 4 seats to my left. Keats is in the back corner. I want to talk about Grandma Dorothy tonight. Smiles. Nods. An older man named Frank Hopper, Grandma's best fishing buddy for over 20 years, 80 years old in a BOLO tie and suspenders, leans forward like I said the magic word. Because this family wouldn't be what it is without her. She helped Mom and Dad with their first house. She taught Chelsea to drive. She took me fishing every summer until I was 15. She was the most deliberate, forward-thinking woman I've ever known. Safe territory. Dad's shoulders drop half an inch. He thinks this is a tribute. And before she died, Grandma planned something for me. The shoulders go right back up. She left me a sealed cedar box. My name on it, carved in her own handwriting. The yard goes quiet. Not party quiet. Courtroom quiet. Dad stands. Cassidy. This isn't the time. I look at him. 60 people look at him. And I say the truest thing I've said in 31 years. Dad, you had 14 years. I think tonight is exactly the time. He doesn't sit. He doesn't move toward me either. He's frozen and everybody is watching. Sit down, Richard. Voice dropping to that register of pure authority. But this isn't his kitchen. This is a yard full of 60 people already leaning forward in their chairs. Frank Hopper, clearly and calmly. Let her talk, Richard. Mom at the main table, barely audible. Let her finish. Dad rounds on her. Stay out of this, Sheila. A ripple moves through the crowd. Gary Whitfield sets down his cornbread. Chelsea stands. Cass, let's take this inside. She reaches for my arm. I step back. Same arm Dad grabbed 2 weeks ago in that kitchen. No. I'm saying this here. I reach into my bag and pull out the manila envelope. Hold it against my chest. When Grandma Dorothy died in 2010, she left a sealed box with my name on it. My parents put it in the attic and never told me it existed. I found it 2 weeks ago while helping clear space for this very party. Whispers start moving. Cousin Patty's mouth opens. Frank Hopper sets both hands on his chair arms. Inside were 3 property deeds in my name. A house in Cedar Falls. 52 acres of farmland. A lake house on Detroit Lake. All transferred to me when I was 6 years old. Frank Hopper pushes himself to standing. Dorothy told me about that box. Right here at this property the summer before she passed. Said it was for Cassidy and nobody else was supposed to touch it. He looks at my father steadily. She told me that herself. Dad stares at Frank. Then at me. Then at the folder. The string lights hum overhead. Some love song drifts quietly from the porch speaker, the cheerful sound of it almost absurd against this silence. Dad turns to the crowd, palms open. Posture of a reasonable man. Listen, Dorothy wasn't herself at the end. She made confused decisions. I had to step in and manage a mess. Frank doesn't sit down. Dorothy Sutton was sharper at 72 than most women at 40. I played cards with her every Thursday for 15 years. She never made a single decision without thinking 3 moves ahead. Murmur through the crowd. Doubt forming in people's eyes. Then Bernard Keats stands up. Unhurried. Buttons his jacket. Walks to the front of the yard with the steady gait of a man who has done this in rooms far more adversarial than a backyard cookout. Mr. Monroe. His voice is quiet but cuts right through the noise. I think it's time we clarified a few things. Dad turns. Sees the briefcase. Charcoal suit. The reading glasses on the beaded chain. Recognition lands on his face like cold water. Who invited you? Keats sets his briefcase down on the nearest table, right next to a platter of deviled eggs. Dorothy did. 14 years ago. 3 full seconds of complete silence. The love song on the porch ends. Nobody turns it back on. Keats lays 3 documents on the table side by side, quietly moving the deviled eggs to make room. My name is Bernard Keats. I served as Dorothy Sutton's attorney for 19 years. 2-second pause. Before her death, Dorothy transferred 3 properties into her granddaughter's name. 718 Birch Street. 52 acres off County Road 41. A lake house on Detroit Lake. These deeds are recorded with Marion County. They are not ambiguous. They are legal fact. He pulls out the affidavit. Dorothy also left a sworn notarized statement documenting her concern that Mr. Monroe had taken mortgage loans against 2 of these properties without legal authority. I have confirmed this through county records. Richard Monroe signed as authorized agent on properties where the deed gave him no such authority. None. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't gesture. He stands there like a man reading a weather report. Every word lands like a stone dropped into still water. Those properties would have been lost without me, Dad says. Keats even, there were no outstanding debts. Dorothy paid every balance before the transfers. They were completely free and clear. Mrs. Graves from next door. Oh my God! Mr. Henderson, Richard. Is this true? Dad opens his mouth. Closes it. No sound. Mom is crying. Not the kind she uses to end arguments. Real, uncontrolled, bent-forward crying. Gary Whitfield slowly pushes back from his table. Fans. Folds his napkin. Quietly excuses himself to nobody in particular and walks toward the front driveway without making eye contact with a single person. Nobody stops him. Everybody notices. Dad shifts tactics the way a man shifts weight on a sinking boat. I did this for my family. His voice cracks for the first time, not with authority, with something raw. You think I wanted to do this? Do you know what it costs to keep a roof over everyone's heads? I did what I had to do. A few older relatives look uncomfortable. Cousin Patty stares at her hands. This might have landed somewhere soft if it had been offered privately 2 weeks ago with an honest apology. But not here. Not after sealed boxes and forged signatures and 14 years of deliberate silence. Dad. Stop. Chelsea's voice from across the yard. Dad points at me. You sit in your apartment in Portland and think you know everything. I built this. Everything you see me. Frank Hopper, flat and clear. Nobody's disputing that, Richard. But you took the girls' money. The sentence just sits in the air. Took the girls' money. Simple. Factual. Devastating. Dad turns to Mom. Last card. Sheila. Tell them you knew. Tell them you agreed. 60 people look at my mother. Sheila Monroe, who has spent 40 years smoothing things over, accommodating, keeping the peace at every cost to herself, looks at her husband across a table covered in anniversary streamers and says, barely above a whisper, No, Richard. That was your decision. It was always yours. I told you she'd find out. Nobody moves. That is the first time in 40 years my mother has publicly said no to my father. I let the silence hold for 3 seconds. Then I turned to Chelsea. The $48,000 down payment on your condo. Where did it come from? She's still by the dessert table, arms wrapped around herself. Derek looks completely lost. Keats, without looking up. For the record, I have documentation showing a $48,000 withdrawal from the rental income account for the Detroit Lake property, dated March 2023. Miss Chelsea Monroe closed on her condominium in April 2023. The math is not complicated. 60 people do it at the same time. Derek looks at Chelsea. What is he talking about? Chelsea's face crumbles. Not with anger, with shame. I didn't know the full story, Derek. I swear, Dad said it was a family. Derek sits back in his chair, very still, like a man recalculating everything he thought was solid ground beneath him. Chelsea watches his face change. She presses her lips together, looks at me for one long moment, then turns and walks out through the garden gate. Lorraine says, just loud enough for the surrounding seats to hear, "That man shook 2 relationships in about 10 minutes. I take a breath. The yard smells like sweet tea and cut grass and charcoal smoke. And underneath all of it, something faintly sweet. Something like pipe tobacco. I know that's impossible. But it doesn't feel impossible right now. I face the crowd. I didn't come here tonight to humiliate anyone. The level voice you'd use to explain something hard to someone you genuinely respect. I came because I spent 14 years being told I wasn't ready, wasn't there yet, wasn't responsible. And it turns out the whole time I was the one who had something. And it was being taken from me." Frank nods. Lorraine nods. Several people I barely know have their hands over their mouths. I'm not asking for revenge. I'm asking for what's legally mine. And I'm asking for the truth that everyone in this yard deserved to hear a long time ago. I turn to Dad. He's still standing, but everything about his posture is different now. Smaller. Like a building after the scaffolding comes down. Dad, I love you. But I can't pretend this didn't happen. And I won't. I turn to Mom. Mom, you could have told me any time in 14 years. I hope someday you'll understand why that matters. Keats speaks one last time. Same measured tone. For the record, if the properties are not returned to Ms. Monroe's control within 90 days, litigation proceeds automatically per Ms. Sutton's standing instructions. I sit back down. Lorraine takes my hand under the table and holds it. Nobody claps. Nobody needs to. The silence is its own verdict. Party ends the way a difficult funeral ends. Murmuring. People touching arms, not knowing what to say but feeling they should say something before they leave. Paper plates go into trash bags. Foil gets wrapped over dishes nobody finished. The string lights keep blinking cheerfully. Nobody shakes my father's hand on the way out. Frank Hopper stops in front of me by the gate. His eyes are wet, which genuinely startles me. I have never once seen Frank show emotion beyond mild irritation at a bad card hand. Dorothy would be proud of you. He presses a handwritten business card into my hand. You ever need a character witness, you call me first. He pats my shoulder once, hard, the way men of his generation express everything they can't say, and walks to his truck. Gary Whitfield's car was gone before I even finished speaking. Inside, Dad is in the locked bedroom. TV loud enough to drown out everything. The way he always drowns out conversations he doesn't want to have. Mom sits at the kitchen table in her floral dress, surrounded by anniversary cards she hasn't opened, staring at the tablecloth. She looks up when I pass through. I look back. There's nothing left to say in this house tonight. Lorraine and I drive back toward Portland in her rental car. Somewhere past Grant's Pass, she says quietly, Dorothy would have handled it exactly like that. I watch the highway lights and let myself believe her. 6 days later, Chelsea calls. The swagger she always carries is completely gone. She sounds like someone who hasn't slept in a week. Derek wants to understand the whole thing from the beginning. He says he feels like he bought that condo on money that wasn't ours. She pauses. He's right. Yeah, Chelsea. He is. I had a year to say something to you. I kept telling myself Dad had it figured out. That it wasn't as bad as it sounded. Voice breaking. I needed it to not be that bad. I understand that. But easier for you came at my expense. Literally. A long silence. Then, I'm sorry, Cass. I really mean it. First genuine apology she's ever given me. I hear you. But sorry doesn't pay back $48,000. I hear her exhale, that long, shaky sound of someone realizing their apology is a beginning, not an end. Saturday morning, a knock at my apartment door. No text. No warning. I look through the peephole. Dad. Flannel shirt with a stain on the pocket. Unshaved. Eyes red at the rims. He looks 10 years older than he did last Saturday. I open the door. He doesn't step inside. He stands in the hallway like a man who isn't sure he still has the right to take up space. I'm not here to fight. I'm here so you hear it from me. He tells me about 2010. $60,000 in business debt. Bank threatening to lien the house. Second business had just gone under. Properties were in my name and just sitting there. He told himself he'd borrow against them temporarily, fix the debt, pay it all back before I ever needed to know. But one loan became two. The rental income became easier than figuring out how to stop. Why didn't you tell me when I turned 18? 21? Any time in the last decade? By then I owed too much. He meets my eyes for the first time. And I was ashamed. I kept thinking if I could just get clear, I could fix it quietly. I stand there looking at my father, and for one long moment I don't see a con artist. I see a 61-year-old man from a small town who panicked, made a terrible choice, and spent 14 years digging the hole deeper because he was too ashamed to climb out. Understanding someone and absorbing what they did to you are two completely different things. Dad, I believe you were desperate. But you could have been honest at any point and it would have cost you almost nothing. Instead, you chose the lie and it cost you everything. He nods once, turns, walks down the hall without looking back. Monday, Keith's certified letter arrives at my parents' house. 30-day notice to begin property transfers. 90-day litigation clock running. Wednesday, the bank calls Dad in for a meeting. Gary Whitfield, now on administrative leave pending internal investigation, had approved over $300,000 in loans on properties where the actual deed holder never signed. That is not a gray area. By Friday, Dad has listed his contractor equipment on Facebook Marketplace. He's liquidating. Slowly, but he's doing it. Mom calls me Sunday. Her voice is stripped of the performance she usually carries. I should have stopped him years ago, she says. I was scared of what it would mean. I know, Mom. But being scared doesn't make it okay. No, she says. It doesn't. The most honest 45 seconds we've ever had. Changes nothing and changes everything, all at once. I don't pursue criminal charges. I want the properties back, the rental income accounted for, and a payment plan for the rest. Keats draws up the settlement. Dad signs without negotiating a single line. Chelsea sends a money order, $8,000, a sticky note, first installment. The more coming. I'm sorry, Cassidy. Not enough. But it's honest money. The first honest money that's ever passed between us. 3 weeks after the party, I call in sick to work for the first time in 3 years and drive out to Detroit Lake. The lake house sits back from the water behind a row of pines that have grown taller than the roofline since the last time I was here. I was 15 then. Grandma let me pick the radio the whole drive out. I park in the gravel pull-off and sit for a long time. The lake is gray-green under a November sky. A great blue heron stands motionless in the shallows near the dock, completely still, like something that has been waiting and knows what it's waiting for. I unlock the front door with the key the management company mailed me. pine walls, kitchen barely big enough to turn around in, a wood stove in the corner with a cast iron kettle, orange at the spout with a little rust, clean and simple and quiet. On the small table by the window is a guest log, a spiral notebook. I open it to the first page. Before any tenant entry, before any rental date, in handwriting I could identify from across a dark room. This lake house is for Cassidy. Take good care of it. I sit on the porch steps. The wood is cold through my jeans. The dock stretches out over the water the way it did when I was 10 and Grandma was teaching me to skip flat stones. I pull out her letter. Read the last line one more time. You don't owe anyone your silence. Not even me. Be brave, Cassidy. I cry. First time since I opened that box. I sit on those cold porch steps and let the whole thing come, the anger and the grief and the relief and the loneliness of 14 years of not knowing, and I don't try to hold any of it back. 3 months later, February, my 32nd birthday. Keith's deadline passes without incident. Properties are fully mine. No lawsuit. Just paperwork, patience, and a 77-year-old lawyer who kept a 14-year promise. 718 Birch Street. The tenants stay, a young couple who've been there 4 years. Rent now goes directly to me. First deposit, $1,550. I stare at the number on my banking app like I'm reading something in a language I'm only just learning. The farmland off County Road 41. The fraudulent mortgage is being unwound. The bank voided the lien. Dad owes the difference in monthly installments for a very long time. The lake house. I drive out on weekends. Place the porch steps. Bought a new kettle. Hung a photo Lorraine found at her place in Phoenix. Grandma and me, age 6, standing in the bed of her old green Chevy, both of us squinting hard into the summer sun. My relationship with Mom is careful and real for the first time in my life. We talk every other Sunday. Short calls. No pretending. She started seeing a therapist, first time at 58. She told me that last week and I said I was proud of her and I meant it completely. Dad and I don't talk yet. I let him know through Keats, when he's ready to have an honest conversation, I'll be here. The door is open. But I'm not the one who's going to knock. Chelsea and I are somewhere in the middle. She and Derek are in counseling. She sends installment checks. She texts me small things sometimes, a funny video, a question about a recipe. Reaching carefully. I'm not ready to close the gap fully, but I'm not closing the door either. I enrolled in a paralegal certification program. Classes started in March. The first time in my life I have a 5-year plan that is genuinely completely mine. On my birthday night, I sit at the little table by the lake house window with a pen and a sheet of lined notebook paper. I found a pack of the same college-ruled paper Grandma used for her letter, and I bought it without fully thinking about why. I write, "Dear Grandma, I found it. I opened it. And I didn't let them stop me. You were right about the properties. You were right about Dad. You were right that I'd have to fight. You were right that I'd need people in my corner. Mr. Keats is everything you said he'd be. I think he misses you almost as much as I do. But you were wrong about one thing. You said you were sorry. You said you were sorry you couldn't hand me the box yourself. You have nothing to be sorry for. Not one thing. You are the reason I'm sitting here. You gave me 3 properties. Everyone talks about the money and the legal drama. But that's not the real thing you left me. The real thing was the last line of your letter. You don't owe anyone your silence. I carried that sentence into a yard full of 60 people, and it gave me the only permission I'd ever needed. Permission to tell the truth out loud. I love you. I miss you. I wish you could see this cabin right now. Pines grew up past the roofline. The heron is still here. Cassidy. I fold the letter and place it in the cedar box, which sits on the shelf above the wood stove next to the framed photo. Grandma and me in the truck. 2001, the year she decided to give me a future my parents couldn't take away. I close the lid. The box stays. It's past 10 when I walk out to the dock. The lake is black and still, reflecting a sky full of stars you genuinely cannot see from Portland. The air is cold enough that I can see my own breath. I sit at the edge with my sneakers off, feet dangling above water I'm not brave enough to dip into in February. Behind me, the lake house windows glow warm and orange from the wood stove. In front of me, open water, quiet, and the kind of darkness that doesn't feel empty. Feels finished. People will tell you that keeping the peace is the same thing as keeping your family. It isn't. Sometimes keeping the peace just means staying quiet while someone takes what's yours and calls it love. Calls it sacrifice. Calls it what's best for everyone. I did that for 14 years. Not because I was weak. Because I didn't know. Because the people who were supposed to tell me decided their own comfort was worth more than my future. My grandmother gave me 3 properties. But the real gift, the thing I will carry for the rest of my life, was permission. Permission to stop disappearing. Permission to believe that what I deserved wasn't something I had to earn by being small and quiet and endlessly grateful for whatever got handed to me. I don't know exactly what I am to this family anymore. Daughter. Plaintiff. The one who said the true thing at what they'll call the wrong time. But I know what I am to myself. And I am more alive right now, sitting on this dock in the February cold with nothing but open water in front of me, than I have been in 32 years. That's my story. Or at least that's where it stands right now. If you've ever had to choose between keeping the peace and telling the truth in your own family, I see you. And I hope this helped even a little. If you want more stories like this one, there's a link in the description I think you'll really connect with. Hit subscribe if you haven't. Drop a comment. What would you have done differently? Would you have opened that box the same day you found it? Would you have gone to that party? I read every single comment. Every one. Thank you for being here with me. It means more than I know how to say.